15th meeting of the Fortuna City Council. If you'll make sure your electronic devices are silenced, will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Conley?
Present.
Councilmember Diaz?
Here.
Councilmember Stevens?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent? Here. Mayor Johnson?
Here. Thank you. And our first item of business tonight, we have two proclamations. The first is a proclamation to commemorate the 238th anniversary of the Constitution of the United States. And we have Catherine Culver here to accept this. As I read this, whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law, and whereas it is the privilege and duty of the American people to commemorate the 238th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies and activities, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Mike Johnson, by virtue of authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Fortuna, State of California, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution, reflect on the privilege of being an American, with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. Signed this 15th day of September 2025 at the City of Fortuna. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm Catherine Culver, 1150 Vista Drive, Fortuna. I'm a member of the Eel River Valley chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I would like to thank the mayor and the council for issuing this proclamation. It's a time to remind ourselves that the Constitution is not a political document. You know, it's rather the foundation of our government. In order to celebrate the Constitution Week, one of the things we're doing on Wednesday the 17th is participating in Bells Across America. We'll be right in front of the Veterans Hall under the banner proclaiming Constitution Week, and we'll meet there at 12:45. Everyone will be given a bell, and at 1 o'clock we will ring those bells for a minute. And when I told my husband about this, he laughed, and I said, hey, we're doing it all across America. So once again, thank you for recognizing Constitution Week. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And now, Kyle Conley is going to read a proclamation for PACE Month.
Thank you. In recognition of Redwood Coast National PACE Month, September 2025, whereas the elderly population in Humboldt County is growing rapidly with a significant impact on health care needs and cost, and whereas the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly, PACE, is a fully integrated, comprehensive model of care that allows for older adults who qualify for a nursing home level of care to continue living safely and independently in their homes and communities, and whereas participants enrolled in PACE receive all Medicare and Medicaid covered services along with additional support such as rehabilitation, transportation, nutrition, social engagement, and family caregiver assistance that promote overall health and well-being, and whereas PACE programs assume full financial responsibility for participants, medical care, and related services, including hospitalizations and long-term through capitated payments from Medicare and Medicaid, thereby helping to control costs for the state while improving quality of care. And whereas Redwood Coast PACE, a program of the Humboldt Senior Resource Center, has served more than 650 older adults in Humboldt County, with currently 369 adults enrolled, with centers located in Fortuna, Eureka, and now Arcata, providing a trusted local resource for families and seniors alike. And whereas Redwood Coast PACE celebrates 11 years, with the Humboldt Senior Resource Center being the only rural PACE in California and considered the most successful PACE program in the country. And whereas PACE has consistently demonstrated improved health outcomes, greater participant satisfaction, and enhanced quality of life for older adults while supporting families and strengthening communities. Now therefore, I, Mayor Mike Johnson, by virtue of authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Fortuna, State of California, do here proclaim September 25 as National PACE Month of the City of Fortuna, and I encourage all citizens to recognize the importance of Redwood Coast PACE, a program of the Humboldt Senior Resource Center, ensuring dignity, independence, and qualified care for the community of seniors. Signed this 15th day of September 2025 at the City of Fortuna. And I believe there's a Jennifer Mascom and a Melissa Heuven here to accept this.
I haven't signed either one of them. I know how to get it. Catherine's over.
Hello, I'm Melissa Hooven, the CEO of Humboldt Senior Resource Center, and with me I have our Executive Director of Redwood Coast PACE, Barbara Leahy, and our Assistant Director of PACE, Christina Lewis. On behalf of Humboldt Senior Resource Center, we would like to thank you for making September National PACE Month for Fortuna. We truly appreciate the support that you have given us and shown us in support and expansion of our programs. We are thrilled to explore future opportunities and again, really and truly appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all you guys do. All right. And at this time, we have an introduction of a new employee, Hannah Vitello.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Kaylin Steinbrook, Parks and Recreation Director. I'm honored to introduce our new Recreation Program Supervisor, Hannah Vitello, a Fortuna local and Arizona State University graduate. With over 10 years of supervisory experience, Hannah joined our team in late April, just as the department was kicking off preparations for the special events season and summer programming. Hannah jumped in with both feet, coordinating the Forest Moon Festival and taking on one of Recreation's largest programs, Summer Fun. From day one, she was building rapport with staff, evaluating programs, and implementing necessary changes. Hannah is a quick learner who takes great pride in her work. She brings big dreams and bold ideas to her programs, always with the community in mind. In just 5 months, she has already made a remarkable impact, and I'm incredibly proud of what she's accomplished. I'm excited to see her continue to grow in her role and expand her division to its fullest potential. So with that, I'll turn it over to Hannah Vitello, Recreation Program Supervisor.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson, members of the City Council, and City staff. My name is Hannah Vitello. I'm honored to introduce myself as the new Recreation Supervisor for Fortuna Parks and Recreation. As someone who grew up in the community, it's incredibly meaningful to step into a role where I can give back and create enriching experiences for local families and people in the community. In the 5 months I've been with the city, I had the opportunity to lead our summer camp program, Summer Fun, assist with planning community events like Forest Moon and our upcoming Spookathon that's coming up this October, and begin developing updates and improvements to our existing recreation programs. I'm passionate about seeing our community thrive, and I'm committed to building programs that are diverse, impactful, and reflective of everything that makes Fortuna such a special place to live. So thank you for the warm welcome, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve this community. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome aboard. Okay, we come now to our consent calendar. We have, I believe, 9 items: City Council minutes, Administration Department monthly report, Finance Department monthly report, Parks and Rec monthly report, Police monthly report, Public Works monthly report, report of disbursements, approval of mayor appointment of Richard Mull to the Roner Community Recreation Parks District. Does anybody have anything they'd like to pull? Is there any public comment on these items?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Justin Primafori, Fortuna Police Employees Association. I'd like to make a comment on F, the Police Department monthly report. There's some information in there, or not in there, that I think you guys should be aware of. So I'm going to read off some dates and numbers to put some things in perspective. So 6/29, June 29th through July 12th, 383.25. July 13th through July 26th, 535.75. July 27th to August 9th, 415.25. August 10th through August 23rd, 432.25. August 24th through September 6th, 370.25. That's a total of 2,136.75 hours of overtime that the members of the Fortuna Police Employees Association have worked in 10 weeks. Approximately 90% of that is covered by sworn officers, which currently we have 10 on full-time patrol that aren't on training. That's an average of 384.5 hours per pay period, which averages out to about 38.4 hours per employee per pay period. The reason I bring this to your attention is because we need to address this issue. I know things are being talked about with the budget and, you know, future tax measures and stuff, but we're not going to be able to sustain this. This is an unprecedented amount of hours our families suffer, and we're not doing anything extra. This is just to cover the basic needs of the city. So I will continue to get up here and read the totals of our hours. I can tell you that this pay period is not going to be pretty good because I'm already working 75 hours of overtime in 2 weeks. So, and there's other employees that are working 40 plus. We have training, people are sick. We need to figure out a way to get people here and get them to stay so we can not have to work these many hours. So if you want to talk to me individually, city manager, chief, they have my phone number. I would gladly talk to you guys, and we can discuss some potential opportunities in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Any-
may I make a public comment following that?
Yes.
Thank you. To Justin Primafori, our association president's comments, they are accurate. They are part of our staffing crisis. We do have mandated overtime. You know, I've been here since 1998, and it's the first time we've ever had to do that. I do have a couple comments that are associated. It's not sustainable. That is a very accurate statement. That's why we're looking at the revenue generation and these other issues, that it's very important. The impact does affect us. But he's right. If we don't get our numbers up, we're not going to be able to sustain at the level we are. So staffing impacts services, response times, proactive patrol, our ability to do community policing. It may come down to the fact that we may have to reduce the quality of our policing services and the quality of life in Fortuna. That may be something we have to look at. I don't want to see that happen, because I haven't seen that happen throughout my whole career, but they're carrying a lot of weight on their backs. You know, as I said, the officers carry the weight of public safety. As leaders, we carry the weight of our decisions, our comments, our actions, and they all have impacts, and I hope that we take what he said very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. It is something to be aware of. Any other public comment on the consent calendar? We'll close public comment. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. So our first item of business tonight is to approve the investment policy for fiscal year 25-26.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. So before you is the investment policy for fiscal year 25-26. As a way of background, the purpose of the investment policy is to establish cash management and investment guidelines for the city treasurer, who is responsible for the administration of the City of Fortuna investment program. It is the policy of the City of Fortuna to meet the short and long-term cash flow demands of the city in a manner which provides for the safety of principal and sufficient liquidity while providing an investment return. And so the city last revised the investment policy on September 16th of last year. As such, it's time for the annual review by the City Council. This year, staff are not recommending any changes to the investment policy. However, the policy still needs to be adopted. And so since there are no changes, I'm not going to go into it, but if there are any questions with the attached investment policy, staff is happy to answer those.
Any questions or comments? Is there any public comment on this?
I've got a quick question. Just as the rate of return we got from the miscellaneous investments, kind of in the 4% ballpark, is that pretty in line with what other cities are seeing?
That is actually slightly higher, so we're kind of beating out what I would say is the norm. The county, I think they had a return slightly under 4 for the year, so we're beating it slightly compared to the county. Yep.
Well, can we get a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-24 and read by title only.
A second.
We have a motion and a second.
Resolution 2025-24, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fortuna approving the investment policy for fiscal year 2025-26. Councilmember Conley?
Aye.
Councilmember Diaz?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. All right, thank you again. And now we have selection of the preferred design alternative for Kenmar and Ross Hill Road intersection. And,
Good
Brian,
evening.
Staff report?
Yes, sir. Honorable Mayor, City Council, this may be a bit of a deja vu for you because you did see this back on April 7th when previous Public Works Director Brendan Bird brought forward the PSR for the Kenmar Ross Hill Road project, which went through a lot of the alternatives. The council did not select a preferred alternative at the time, so this is kind of the next step of selecting that preferred alternative and directing staff to move forward with pursuing the next steps in the development process for that intersection. So, can I get it on here? Next slide, please. That's a long way away for me to see it. Can I get it on the thing here?
Trying to load it.
I'm new to the technological part of the dais here, so. Oh, looks like we have power. There we go. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. So the project purpose and need, again, just reviewing that, just a quick synopsis. The Kenmar Ross Hill Road intersection is downstream of the interchange project at Kenmar. That project is proceeding towards 60% designs. We're currently in the back and forth process with Caltrans to approve the initial 30% design set. We've collected all of those and we're moving on. What we don't want to do is put a bunch of money into improving the Kenmar interchange and have all that traffic coming off the freeway and immediately running into the Kenmar Ross Hill Road intersection and getting bound up. So we want these projects to kind of move in parallel. And if possible, Kenmar Ross Hill might actually be a higher priority than the interchange project. That'll be something for the council to look at further down the road. What we're looking at is trying to improve the intersection safety at Kenmar Ross Hill. It is currently underperforming. improving bicycle and pedestrian facilities, and advancing this project in parallel or even a little bit in advance of the interchange. Next slide, please. So just a quick review of the levels of service. This is just traffic engineering terminology. A is the best, and it moves all the way down to F, which you could think of as failing. F is the worst you can get for a signalized intersection. And that's basically based on how long people will be delayed transiting through that intersection. Next slide. So currently, this is at level D and E at all legs of the intersection, which means it is not functioning very well at all. The city's general plan has a minimum level of service target as CD, so this is below our general plan level of service target, and that is all legs of the intersection. Next slide, please. So each leg has its own sort of different constraints, whether it's AM queuing exceeding the available storage or PM queuing exceeding the available storage. The intersection as a whole is not currently performing to standard. Next slide, please. You have a whole bunch of stuff going on there, as anybody who's driven through that intersection knows, especially at the wrong time of day. There's some confusing lane merges. There's a lot of traffic coming from different sections. There's some signals that are trying to merge traffic from different directions and keep everything moving smoothly. When traffic volumes are high, that whole system kind of breaks down. Next slide. And there's also a lack of bicycle and pedestrian facilities at the Kenmar interchange, or not at the interchange, but at Kenmar Ross Hill. Next slide. So there were three alternatives, and these will look a little bit familiar, but the first one, we had different terminology in the last one. We'll just call it a signalized intersection retrofit. It's basically taking the existing intersection, re-signalizing it a little bit, adding to it a little bit, and trying to sort of get by with mostly what we have with a few improvements. The second one would be a new signalized intersection. That would be a complete rebuild of the intersection, adding additional lanes, turn lanes, and signalizing the entire intersection. The third would be a roundabout, very similar to the designs that we're proceeding with for both 12th Street and the Kenmar interchange. Next slide. So just a quick overview of the first option, which is the signal retrofit. This would bring on an additional lane coming into town on eastbound Kenmar Road, eliminating the Kenmar slip lane. So you can see that's that little curved part at the top there that would go away. Adding an eastbound Kenmar bike lane and sidewalk, and extending southbound Boulevard left turn pocket, and modifying the signal timing and phasing to try to optimize the performance of the intersection. Next slide. The numbers here, there's a lot of numbers. Really, the important part is seeing if the numbers exceed at the bottom there, whether the 95th percentile queue is exceeding the available storage. There's only one instance there where it does. So it helps maintain a level of service standard for longer, and it keeps vehicle queues on all legs within the available storage pretty much. Next slide. So this would be the new complete rebuild of the intersection as a signalized intersection, which would include southbound Ross Hill Road lane before the eventual lane merge, additional northbound Ross Hill Road left turn lane, additional westbound Kenmar lane to separate all turn movements, and bicycle facilities for all routes. So that's a significant increase in the overall construction level of the intersection. Next slide. And then here you can see that it keeps the vehicle queuing on all legs within available storage for the most part. There is one there on the southbound right that would exceed at build out. Next slide. The last option is the roundabout. This was considered the maximum build option, these last two. This alternative includes conversion of the entire intersection to a roundabout, very similar to what's going on with both the 12th Street design and the Kenmar Road interchange design. So you can imagine coming off the freeway at Kenmar, you get off at the interchange, you go through a roundabout, you come out of that, you go about 1,000 feet, you go through another roundabout, and you're in town. This would have a single lane for the southbound Boulevard and Ross Hill, eastbound and westbound Kenmar Road, 2 lanes for northbound Kenmar. So it is a sort of a partial multi-lane roundabout, and bicycle pedestrian connectivity improvement on all legs of the roundabout. Next slide, please. Just because of the way roundabouts work, the throughput of a roundabout is just really, really high compared to a signalized intersection. And the queuing performance for the roundabout alternative is a level of service A. It's the best possible level of service under any conditions. So really, in terms of being able to stand up to additional development pressure, assuming the mill site developed with some high-intensity uses or other areas of town developed with high-trip generation uses, the roundabout is the longest life option of the 3. It will continue to perform under all circumstances that we could foresee. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick summary of the whole thing. So the first option, the signal retrofit, estimated cost for that was about $2.9 million. This was as of April. The average level of service would put it in that C to D, so it's still not great. It does address some of the queuing issues. It does have some benefits in terms of safety. It does have some improvements in terms of non-motorized accessibility, and the design life is 20 to 30 years unless something happens like an intense development of the mill site or some other type of intense development or large-scale residential developments. The second option, the new signalized intersection option, came in at about $12.6 million, so it is the most expensive option, is to rebuild the intersection as a signalized intersection. It doesn't get you a whole lot of benefit in terms of the level of service. It still lands at a level of service C. Has some improvement in the queuing distances, has good improvements in the safety aspect, and has some good improvements for bicycles and pedestrians, and has an estimated design life of 30 to 50 years. And take those particular life numbers with a grain of salt, because again, they're very dependent on how the city develops over time. The roundabout option came in at about $8.7 million, so it's in the middle there. It gets you to a level A, AB, level of service. There's minimal queuing. You don't queue at a roundabout for the most part. Good safety improvements, and has bicycle and pedestrian services for all routes on the roundabout, and essentially has an indefinite lifespan. Next slide, please. So some things to consider that are pertinent now that may not have been pertinent at the time or may not have been clear in April when the council last saw this. Taking into account, we have had a developer come forward with options for the south end of the mill site. That development proposal, at least they were kind of feeling it out and seeing what they could do there. Those potential buyers lost interest and walked away from that project, largely due to uncertainties around the access to the site. So we're working on the interchange project. The interchange essentially requires a right-in, right-out for the northbound Eel River Drive, which is the entrance to the south part of the mill site. We're working with the developer and with our traffic engineers to try to figure out what level of development a right-in, right-out could accommodate. It couldn't accommodate the level of development that the prospective buyers were proposing. But what we think might happen is they may end up getting pushed one intersection to the east and get into the Kenmar-Ross Hill intersection. So if the development of the south end of the mill site happens at a higher level, it may be necessary to include that information in the design of the Kenmar-Ross Hill intersection. Preliminary discussions with the traffic engineers at GHD said that it's very likely that a roundabout option could accommodate another leg to provide access into that site. Now, that's very preliminary engineering. There was also some thinking that the sort of the minimum build option, or the first option, the basic reconstruction of what's there, sort of the Band-Aid approach, was a viable option in terms of getting the city to something that functions better than it does now, and getting totally through design and construction in pretty short order. Because it was I believe it says $2.6 million project. That was within the scope of a STIP-funded project locally. the STIP funding for this cycle came out, that number is larger than the total STIP allocation for the entire area, so including all of the other municipalities and the county. So the STIP funds have gone down quite a bit, and we don't foresee that they're going to go back up anytime soon. So the idea of getting through design and construction for something in the short term, even though it has a shorter design life, that really is no longer on the table. And then the need to address something in conjunction with the Kenmar interchange. Again, we don't want the Kenmar interchange somehow getting to construction and people coming off the interchange and getting stuck at Ross Hill. So trying to keep this ahead of that. Next slide. So our recommendation is to have a discussion and select a preferred alternative for the design of the Kenmar-Ross Hill intersection and direct staff to pursue funding for the next phase of the project. Next slide. And I believe with that, we'll take any questions you might have.
Quite a bit of information in there, and I have some comments later, but open it up to.
Have you been working with Caltrans on any of this?
We have been in constant discussions and working with Caltrans, both on the 12th Street intersection, but most recently on the Kenmar interchange. They are reviewing the city's plans and providing comments. They're heavily involved because it is within their right-of-way. So yes, they have a heavy hand in all of it, yes.
Do they have any recommendations?
They don't have any recommendations for the Kenmar-Ross Hill intersection because this intersection lies outside of their right-of-way. And we haven't run this past them directly. As long as their intersection functions, I think they're probably fine. But whether having their roundabout function would be impacted by Kenmar-Ross Hill, I don't believe the traffic engineering has been done to show how far it would back up. It's a worry that we have, but I don't think not that I've seen, we haven't had a direct discussion on the traffic engineering impacts being backed up into Ross Hill.
Thank you.
If you drive through there, which I have to drive through there quite often, you see exactly where the buildup can come when you get off the freeway. And if we put a roundabout there, which will make it completely easier to get off the freeway, but then you're going to have a backup probably into the roundabouts because you're going to have more cars that can queue there quicker if we don't probably put a roundabout there also. There's just coming off, especially southbound 101 there, you stop and go. You can't tell if someone's turning to go to Riedel. But if that's easier to get through, the cars are just going to get to that intersection quicker. So we need to have a place to let them get away from there also, because I think it'll just back up into that brand new kind of roundabout situation that we have there. So I think a roundabout's the best option for that.
Go ahead.
I just have a general question. You say that the intersection needs to be running concurrently with the roundabouts for the off-ramp. How do you, or what do you envision for traffic exiting the freeway during construction time, regardless of which option we go with? Because that's going to be a lot of flow and trying to direct them during construction for both parts of the road at that time.
Yes, a great question. There's several phases between where we're at and construction, and really sort of the next phase for Kenmar-Ross Hill would be the PAED, getting to 30% designs where we would start to figure out the lay of the land, what the right-of-way requirements would be for a particular configuration. How traffic would be handled during construction would be something that we would definitely work with Caltrans, and that would be much further down the road after we had full construction designs and started talking about how to handle the traffic during that. But it's definitely a good consideration.
Do you know, would there be a possibility of reopening the Drake Hill Road access to the northbound 101?
I'm going to take a stab at what Caltrans would say and say no, ever.
I mean, I can understand not wanting, vehicles to cross, to get to the southbound lane, but if, I don't know, if that was an option, it seems like it might take some of the vehicle pressure off of this, this access point,
Only knowing that
even
they
on a
had
temporary
it.
basis,
Yeah.
people in Campton Heights could go down Drake Hill Road or Eel River Drive.
I don't know the history there of how they took it away, but knowing that it was there and it was taken away, I don't think they would, unless something changed very, very drastically, I don't think they would go back to an
And
exit.
I'll make a comment on that as a 17-year member of the volunteer fire department, that you don't want that back. That road is not a very good road, and there was a lot of accidents on that interchange as it was, so I don't think that's a great option.
So anyway, I guess back to this intersection. So is the goal then just to have an option selected so that if grant funds do become available, we're ready to move ahead? I mean, I guess my question is, realistically, how much of this are we expecting the city to pay out of our own budget versus outside funds from, grants or other entities? I mean, is it realistic to say we might get an $8 million grant for a roundabout?
Depending on the conditions, it's entirely possible. In my mind, the best thing that the city could do is have a shovel-ready project on the shelf, where you've done the design, you've done the engineering, everything is sort of ready to go. Anybody that was around after the 2008 crash saw all the ARA money, where the federal government basically dumped giants of buckets of money and said, we want the biggest projects possible because we want to give it away in giant chunks. Hopefully we won't have another 2008 financial crisis to get there, but grant funding does occur. Shovel-ready projects that have already gone through environmental, that have already gone through right-of-way, that have already gone through coordination with Caltrans, that have already taken all of the steps possible to get to a shovel-ready project, are best positioned to be on top of those grant funds. So our plan is just to kind of keep moving it along incrementally. And again, the next phase of the Kenmar Ross Hill project is the project approval and environmental documentation. So going through, figuring out what that environmental document looks like and getting to kind of the 30% designs where we start to kind of hash out the realities of how it would sit and what it would look like. And there will be additional steps after that. It may be pieced together from multiple grants, but it's not anticipated that the city is going to, pony up almost $9 million out of pocket to do this. I don't see that happening.
And then with the unknown of the access to the mill site, is that something that, that the property owners there could participate in, or that, you mentioned that they had a potential user or buyer that got discouraged because they didn't know how they were going to access it. Obviously you've mentioned that as a factor to be considered, but how do we consider that?
We're actually in discussions with the owner at present and working on getting some traffic engineering done where they'll actually pay for the traffic engineering. If a development came in tomorrow for any parcel in the city, one of the things we would look at would be the traffic impacts of that development. The mill site specific plan, the zoning is fairly open-ended. It's not very restrictive in terms of what they can do on the site. And so it doesn't give us a lot of information up front to determine what the potential traffic impacts from a development of that site might be. The city, while we have an interest in seeing the site develop, we couldn't necessarily put a whole bunch of money up front into traffic engineering for the highest intensity possible uses on the site, and then it gets sold and they build mini storage. There's just a lot that can happen there. So we are working with the developer to try to facilitate the traffic engineering to clarify some of the uncertainty about what their access levels could be in terms of thresholds. So for instance, up to a certain trip generation threshold, you could use the existing right in, right out, no problem. Above that threshold, then you're over into the next intersection, and let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. So trying to give them some information about what their potential development scenarios are and how that impacts our existing plans for the interchange and for Kenmar.
So being in contact with the developer and his design team and the people he's worked with, this allows us to look at the off-ramp intersections, and in this particular case, we've got those taken care of. Now it's time to take care of the Kenmar intersection, and we're looking for the highest and best use that we can provide there for our citizens and for future design and build inside the mill site as it builds out. And it looks to me like the roundabout is the way to go. It will accommodate the most number of cars or trucks because that's the thing you have to consider, is that it's not just for automobiles and pickups, it's for freight trucks. And to design that to make the turns off of Fortuna Boulevard onto westbound Kenmar, and you've taken that into account, and it'll allow also for another entrance further down towards Springville that way, and accommodate the traffic for that. So I'm of the opinion that the roundabout design is the way to go. It has the lowest maintenance level ongoing, accommodates the traffic the best, and has the longest working life. So it's the best use of our already strapped funds. And I have to say that I was in a meeting with Caltrans last week, and a quarterly meeting as part of HCOG, and they were excited to hear that we were at the point where we were going ahead with the project approval and environmental document getting done by the end of the year. So that they're interested in this, and they want to see it accomplished also. So that's what I think.
What's the cost of getting it shovel-ready?
Unknown at this time. I don't have those numbers right in front of me. I'm fairly new to the city. There probably is an estimate out there. The total cost, including construction and all of the environmental documentation, everything we would do up to that point was $8.7 million. Now, that could change based on inflation, could change based on tariffs, could change based on a whole bunch of other things. What we kind of look at is in the short term, what is the next phase going to cost? And those are chunks that are small enough that we can bite them off through the STIP funding. They're on the order of less than $500,000 for the PAED work. So those are more doable projects. And that's kind of the next, where we keep our sights in the short term, is what the next step is going to cost to just keep things progressing forward.
Okay. Talking with Assemblyman Rogers, he said that there are grants, and having them shovel-ready definitely is an asset. And city manager has sent him a lot of information on these. He seemed very interested in it, so I'm continuing, talking to him every chance I can get to go for these. But I'm looking forward to getting it to shovel-ready part so we can start looking for grants. So thank you for all your work.
And that first step to shovel-ready is getting the alternative chosen and getting the project approval and environmental documents filed. And that's where we're at now, is at that level to step into that and get it done by the end of the year, right?
I don't have a schedule in front of me for the PAED work. If you select an alternative tonight, we will move full steam ahead with getting that on the engineer's schedule and getting it moving.
Perfect.
So did you say with the roundabout option that it might be possible for the roundabout to provide access to the mill site?
Just
Or-
at a very high level, I did run that past Josh Wolf at GHD, just as a very high level. Again, engineers will tell you with
Yep.
the right engineers and a lot of money, you can do anything. But just conceptually, it is possible. There's some constraints there with the creek, because the creek is right off the west side of that intersection, and it would require tinkering the right-of-way and moving the roundabout a little bit, but it is possible.
Well, folks, we need to select a preferred alternative and make a motion to direct
Mayor,
staff.
public comment?
Yeah. So bear that in mind, but yes.
I'll be quick. I know everybody's waiting. My name is Deborah, and I travel through both of those intersections several times a day. And I was sitting here trying to think of how many times I've been stuck out on 101, waiting to get on the Kenmar exit. There's a lot of liability in that, I would believe. I don't know if that's Caltrans or if that would be Fortuna. but it was really scary to me. And so another thing I don't think that people understand, because I travel them so much, that when the green light turns left, the people go straight, right through the green light, all the time, all day long. And this week, we had a 3-car pileup, and we've had fatalities at that one of those exits, at the Kenmar exit. And so I think if you're going to think about putting anything there at the mill site, for our safety, I mean, I know the police we need the police, and we need the roundabout. I think the roundabout really is an answer for us, because it is really scary and it's very dangerous to drive more than once a time or twice a day. It's very, very dangerous. They're very, very dangerous intersections. And we are growing. Every day I see it. You try to come in here at 5 o'clock and you'll be stuck out on the highway. So I just want you to know that they are dangerous.
And thank you. But while we're having public comment, get your minds thinking about it. So any more public Chief?
Yeah, I'd like to make a public comment just from the safety aspect. I would certainly like to echo the comments that were made there regarding safety. And with a roundabout, I also believe that you will slow traffic into the area of Ross Hill Road. With a steady green light, people pick up speed on the boulevard, and they continue that speed up the hill towards the school, toward the churches. And I do think a roundabout is the safest option for many reasons.
Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none.
I make a motion that we pursue the roundabout option for the Kenmar-Ross Hill interchange.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. And thank you for your comments. And now we come to a supplemental budget request for $11,333 for the police department. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're bringing forth a supplemental budget request for, like as you said, $11,333.85 to pay for the replacement of some outdated computers. We need to address some immediate cybersecurity requirements from the Department of Justice. This item is immediate, a need. Microsoft will stop providing security updates for our current operating system, Windows 10 Pro, on October 1st of this year. The police department uses a system called CLETS. It's California Law Enforcement Telecommunications System. It requires a secure connection. Without updated computers, we will be out of compliance of the DOJ security standards and unable to operate that essential system. That'll essentially put us dead in the water. We consulted with our IT provider, NILEX, on the matter. The initial numbers came in a little bit steeper than this. I want to thank Lieutenant Cadle for doing the staff work on this and getting down to brass tacks and having it prepared to bring this number forward tonight. We cannot upgrade all of our current computers because they are so aged, and the city's standard and our standard as departments has been to try to bring you, the thinnest budgets we can, because we know we have financial issues. However, that has come at a cost, and we will continue to have these equipment, things be outdated and need to be addressed. Simple fact is, the IT provider told us, you're going to have to replace computers. We cannot put Windows 11 Pro on them because they are so outdated. So we knew that this was coming forward. So we did plan ahead. We put $10,000 in our budget this year for replacement of computers, and we applied for some grant funding. However, that fell right as the budget was being finished for this year. We were unsuccessful in getting that funding, so that puts us back in front of you here tonight to ask for the additional funding because the complete project to replace just the immediate essential computers, not all the computers that need to be replaced, is $21,333 and change. So with the 10,000 we have, that's where we come up with the 11,000. I do want to make sure that council is aware, we have mobile data terminals in our cars that our officers, they work out of their car, that's their office. They have those computers, and 4 of those computers we're not able to update. With our current staffing crisis, those computers can be shelved for a little while. Our hope is that by the time other funding comes up for next year's budget or Measure E, that we could utilize those funds to replace those computers, to have them updated and in compliance so we can use them. However, I need to be completely transparent. I may be back here in front of you again if we are fortunate enough to get our staffing up and we need those sooner than later. Additionally, for transparency, I will be back here in front of you giving an overall view and update of many different things within the department that are on the horizon regarding vehicles, less lethal options, equipment, things that are on the horizon that we will need to address sooner than later to get some direction from the council. So tonight, like I said, I am requesting the supplemental budget for $11,333.85 from the general fund to address this matter. I'll take any questions.
Sounds like something this must be done. I know my wife was a trainer for Humboldt County Probation, a CLETS trainer for them, and the DOJ doesn't mess around. If you get in violation, they can yank your privileges, and then you're really dead in the water. So
What is the cost for the additional?
We weren't, with the tight timeline, we were not able to get the cost of the data MDTs. I would have to venture a guess they're probably in the $3,000 to $3,500 range.
For each?
That's a guess. You know, I can't give you an accurate number at this time. We wanted to reach out to CDW and try to get those prices, but with the tight timeline of October 1st and getting this on the agenda, we had to prioritize just the in-house computers that we needed to operate.
Are those computers in occupied cars right now? Are they?
No, they've been pulled. Yeah, we've been working with NILEX to update the ones that we're able to, and those have been set aside and pulled so that we are not in violation.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, but there are officers in those cars?
As of now, no one is currently having to juggle a data terminal. But as soon as officers get off of training, that will be a challenge. And typically, the terminals are assigned to not just a user, but to that individual user's assigned vehicle. So if we fall back on trying to share those terminals, it is possible. However, it will come with some headaches, and it is unknown how many profiles and how much information those can hold. It's still something we have to navigate with NILEX.
So when we get the officers that need those terminals, can you bring us back the cost?
I can certainly bring it back cost as soon as possible with what those would cost and where we're at. Like I said, we do have other costs coming up as well, and I wanted to give the council an overall vision so you can make those decisions.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. It sounds like Microsoft and DOJ are in financial cahoots. Just saying.
Any public comment on this item? Any second public comment on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve a supplemental budget request for $11,333.85 to fund the immediate cybersecurity needs.
Second.
A motion and a second, a roll call vote.
Councilmember Conley?
Aye.
Councilmember Diaz?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. Okay. And our next item is a study session for mobile home rent stabilization.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. This evening, we'll work through a study session on mobile home rent stabilization. As your council may recall, there was a series of communications in July on rent stabilization. On July 17th, city staff and the mayor pro tem met with citizens from the Royal Crest Mobile Home Park to listen to their concerns regarding rent increases that were becoming unaffordable. On July 21st, the city council received significant public comment from the community on the need for mobile home rent stabilization. And prior to July 21st, your city council had received a number of email communications regarding rent stabilization in Royal Crest Mobile Home Park. The purpose of this study session is to provide an overview of mobile home rent stabilization options and receive direction from the City Council on next steps. A little background, a mobile home space rent stabilization ordinance applies to mobile home residents who own a mobile home and rent the site in a mobile home park on which a home is placed. A rent stabilization ordinance, as discussed in further detail tonight, regulates rent increases for the mobile home space while at the same time providing park owners with reasonable returns on their investment in the park. There is already an existing legal framework known as the California Mobile Home Residency Law. California's Mobile Home Residency Law provides specific protections for mobile home park residents due to the immobile nature of their homes. The law mandates a 90-day notice for rent increases and outlines 7 specific reasons for lease termination, including noncompliance with laws, disturbing conduct, and non-payment of rent. It also allows cities to regulate spaces rented before January 1, 1990, with exemptions for long-term leases and non-primary residences. The law does not regulate rent stabilization, leaving that responsibility to local jurisdictions. It is understood that Fortuna's 4 mobile home parks began operating before 1990, making most of the 281 spaces potentially subject to rent stabilization. Mobile home owners, unlike apartment tenants or residents of other rental units, are in a unique position of having made a substantial investment in a residence which is located on a rented or leased parcel of land, also known as the mobile home park, either through acquisition of a mobile home from a prior owner or through purchase of a new mobile home, which is then assembled on-site or delivered there by a vendor. The investment includes the purchase of the mobile home, varying in price from $27,000 to $185,000, depending on the size, condition, and location. The investment also includes the cost of installing the mobile home on its space and installing related improvements such as a foundation, carports, and integrated landscaping. And depending on the job and local contractor, those costs can be up to $20,000 or more. The mobile home owner rents a space in a mobile home park upon which the mobile home is located. The investments of mobile home park residents can only be realized by continuing occupancy in the mobile home or by in-place sale transfer of the mobile home, since physical relocation of the mobile home is costly and nearly impossible. Relocation within other mobile home parks is difficult because there are frequently no vacant spaces in a mobile home park. Park owners generally will not permit older mobile homes to be moved into their parks when they do have vacant spaces. And the supply of mobile home park spaces in California is either stable or declining. Mobile home park construction in California virtually ceased in the early 1980s as alternative land uses became more profitable. In addition to the substantial investment made by the mobile home owner, which may also require a mortgage payment, rent must be paid for a space in a mobile home park. While space rent is required to continue occupancy, just like an apartment, overall affordability of the housing depends on rent, utility and service charges, and the cost of the mobile home. Due to the unique nature of the mobile home space tenancies, the amount paid for space rent has a direct correlation to the value of the mobile home. As space rents increase, the mobile home will depreciate in value. This is a loss in equity, while the land value appreciates, and this is a gain in equity. The general industry rule of thumb is that for every $10 per month space rent increase, $1,000 in mobile home equity is lost. This is a key rationale why, besides state law, local laws have been incorporated regulating the rate at which space rents can be increased. Without regulation, park owners can impact a homeowner's home value. According to the California Department of Housing and Community Development Mobile Home RV Parks database, there are 115 parks in Humboldt County, but only 97 of those parks have mobile home spaces. The others may be campsites or house RVs. These 97 parks have over 3,000 mobile home spaces that are licensed and monitored by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. According to Housing and Community Development, the City of Fortuna contains 4 mobile home parks within its city limits for a total of 283 spaces. Fortuna's 4 parks, which vary in size from 3 to 205 spaces, are located at 544 Fortuna Boulevard. That one only has 3 spaces. 2432 Newburgh Park, 30 spaces. 365 Fortuna Boulevard, 43 spaces. And 2283 Crest Drive, 205 spaces. Approximately 100 jurisdictions in California have adopted rent stabilization ordinances for mobile home parks. These ordinances typically regulate space rent, tying annual increases to the consumer price index. They often include vacancy control measures to prevent rent hikes during in-place sales, preserving affordability. Park owners retain the right to petition for additional increases to ensure fair returns. The City of Arcata, for example, allows annual adjustments equal to 100% of the CPI and vacancy control by limiting space rent increase to 10% when a mobile home is sold. Just a note, the vacancy control was updated on this slide and is incorrect in the staff report because both Arcata and the county have vacancy control. In contrast, cities like Eureka, Ferndale, and Fortuna have not adopted such ordinances. Arcata and the county regulate parks with 10 or more spaces. That may be an option that your city council may want to consider as well. This comparative analysis highlights the diversity in policy approaches and underscores the potential benefits of adopting a tailored ordinance in Fortuna to protect residents and maintain affordable housing. An analysis of rent trends at Royal Crest Mobile Home Estates from 2012 to 2025 reveals the average annual increase is $31 per year, or a 5.34% increase. The highest increase was $60 in 2020, or 9.85%, which is significantly above CPI that year, which was 1.6%. In most years, rent increases exceeded inflation, especially in 2020 and 2019. Cumulative growth in rent rose from $419 in 2012 to $822 in 2025, and those are for the non-view spaces. This is a 96% increase over 13 years. These increases have implications for affordability, especially for residents on fixed incomes. The correlation between rent hikes and reduced mobile home equity further emphasizes the financial strain on homeowners. Several options exist, from no action to adopting a rent stabilization ordinance, with varied implications for all of the options. The first option is no action. Your city council may choose not to implement a mobile home rent stabilization ordinance. However, this decision may prompt constituents who support such a measure to pursue a voter-initiated ballot initiative. In California, this process requires submitting proposed ballot language and collecting valid signatures from at least 10% of the city's registered voters. If these requirements are met, the City Council would be obligated to place the initiative on the next general election ballot, which could be November 2026. A second option is to mediate between the tenants of Royal Crest and Stores Management in order to develop a memorandum of understanding. On August 28th, city staff, including the mayor, met with representatives from the park operator Stores Management to gain a clearer understanding of the recent rent increases implemented at Royal Crest. Royal Crest cited increases in operational costs such as insurance, similar to the increases that the city has received, and liability insurance increases, utilities, interest, bluff maintenance, and fire code related improvements as explanations for their rent increases. In several communications from Stores Management, they cite a 52.28% increase, or over $462,000 in costs over the last 5 years. One potential option is for the City Council to consider a long-term memorandum of understanding between the City of Fortuna and the owners of Royal Crest Mobile Home Park. A potential long-term MOU could include language defining the annual rent increase, pass-through adjustments such as capital improvements, and a rent subsidy program. An MOU would be designed as an alternative to a rent stabilization ordinance aiming to prevent excessive rent increases for 10 or more years based on an annual allowable rent increase likely tied to the consumer price index. Promote communication between park owners, residents, and the city. Continuation of pass-through costs such as capital improvements with resident approval and capital replacement with notice and amortization. Also potentially provide for a rental subsidy program and provide annual reports to the city detailing rent increases and any rental subsidies. An MOU between the City of Rancho Cordova and its mobile home park owners is attached to the staff report as an example of a potential MOU. Investment in an MOU would be currently budgeted staff time. A third option would be to set up a rent conciliation service in lieu of rent stabilization. A rent conciliation service is typically a local government or nonprofit program designed to help resolve disputes between landlords and tenants, especially in areas that do not have formal rent stabilization laws. Rent conciliation is a voluntary mediation process where both parties, landlord and tenant, work with a neutral third party to resolve disagreements over rent increases, lease terms, repairs and maintenance, eviction threats, security deposit disputes. A city-coordinated rent conciliation service would require the investment of general fund dollars from reserves. Royal Crest does offer a rental assistance program through the Manufactured Housing Educational Trust Mobile Home Assistance Program, and tenants must meet specific criteria to provide. Also contained in the attachments in the staff report is the flyer for that rental assistance program provided by Royal Crest Management. A fourth option is to develop and adopt an ordinance to require the reporting of rent increases which exceed CPI. This option would require mobile home park owners to submit annual reporting on rent increases above CPI. This option provides the city an opportunity to gather additional information to justify a potential ordinance at a later date. A final option is to develop and adopt a mobile home rent stabilization ordinance. This option would regulate rent increases to likely no more than CPI. While this option is what is currently being advocated for some of your constituents, the likelihood of litigation following adoption of such an ordinance is high. Rent control litigation is excluded from your liability coverage. We did review our memorandum of understanding for liability coverage, and it is excluded. A rent stabilization ordinance, so just for clarification, that means any litigation would need to come from general fund reserves. A rent stabilization ordinance provides protections ensuring that mobile home residents are not subjected to excessive rent increases and may include provisions like base rent. The ordinance may set a base rent for mobile homes, which is typically based on rent charged at a specific date, often before the ordinance is adopted, to avoid encouraging last-minute rent increases. The ordinance may limit the amount a mobile home park owner can increase the rent for a mobile home space to 100% of or another percentage of the CPI. The ordinance may require park management to provide at least 90 days advance written notice before any rent increases. And that is already contained in state law that I mentioned previously. The ordinance may include provisions for residents to report violations of the ordinance and provide provisions for mobile home park owners to receive a fair return on their investment by seeking an increase above the CPI when justified by costs of maintaining a park. The adoption of a rent stabilization ordinance can include a fee that may be charged to the mobile home park residents for the administration of the rent stabilization program. However, in a small community like Fortuna, this fee would be insufficient to cover the full cost of a rent stabilization program. So here are the 5 options that I listed for your city council to consider, and this concludes my staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Again, it's a lot of information there. Is there any council questions, comments?
I'll make a comment. I'm very, with the current budget, very fearful of possible litigation that could come down that could make this very expensive for the city. So I would venture to go an option that maybe a MOU that can actually achieve this but keeps the city out from possible litigation issues.
And actually an MOU with the park owners, they would waive their right to litigation if an MOU is what is the direction your city council would like to pursue.
You mentioned the cost of administrating a rent stabilization, I guess as an ongoing cost. Do you have a very rough ballpark idea of how much that cost might be in staff time or consultant or whatever?
Well, what I will say is that there has been a fee of between $10 and $20 spoken about per space, and that's roughly only somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000. So that doesn't get you very far on attorney time or staff time. The Arcata ordinance is included in the staff report, and it does list out a number of responsibilities that, in particular, the city manager is responsible for. And so I would say there's a somewhat significant amount of staff time that would be incurred as a result of a rent stabilization ordinance.
I agree with Councilmember Conley that we need to look at what's best for the city and avoid any possible litigation. So I'm leaning towards the MOU, but the only concern that I have for our citizens is that ensuring that the language that we put in there does not only focus on capital improvements and clarifies what is a capital improvement versus an overdue maintenance that hasn't been addressed for many years. Because I know that the water up in that park is not adequate for the firefighting, and that's been overdue for many years. So that is really not a capital improvement, so I don't want to see that cost passed on to the citizens. So we would have to work on that too.
I did talk to the fire chief, and they have done a number of improvements recently in terms of improving or meeting the fire code standards. So we can definitely get more clarification and make sure that the long-term maintenance has been addressed.
So in an MOU, can you put language in there such as the rent cannot be raised higher than the cost of living, or?
Yes, in the example that's in the staff report, there's a cap on the rent, and it's 100% of CPI. So they cannot raise it anything over CPI.
Wasn't really in your staff report, but it came in an email and it talked about it, and it's on your report on the table. But it's got the San Francisco CPI. Is that something that we would look at, or would we look at a more nationally CPI?
Right now, we've just looked at the San Francisco, the Bay Area, Northern California CPI, and that's typically what I've used. We could explore other CPIs. that's an
We're not
option.
San Francisco when it comes down to cost of living
Yeah.
issues, so I just caution us using that because it's
Sure.
completely different.
Well, I'm also leaning towards in favor of the MOU approach. It's a chance to work out things together where both parties are invested in the outcome, and that usually makes for a better agreement in the long run. And that's what I see, and I think that's pretty much what everybody up here is looking at. Is there any public comment out here?
Mayor Johnson, I just want to bring to your attention, there are some members of the public participating via Zoom who'd like to comment on this item, so please just keep that in mind.
Okay, well, let's give them, you speak, and then we'll let the online people. Go ahead.
Love to be able to reach this thing. There you go. My name is Cecilia Holland. I've been a resident of Fortuna for 50 years. I'm speaking on the subject of two alternatives STORS has presented to a rent stabilization ordinance, namely mediation and conciliation. Mediation and conciliation are voluntary processes which work when both sides have equal power. This is not the case in a tenant-landlord situation. The tenant has no power. The company has it all. The tenant fears retaliation for standing up for their rights. And these are not enforceable. They can't, if they come to a conclusion that STORS doesn't like, STORS can simply ignore them. The number of benefits of an RSO are, unlike mediation and conciliation, rent stabilization is proactive. It sets a universal standard for rent increases across a jurisdiction, addressing the broader systemic issue of housing affordability. The proactive aspect is useful in another ways. That's unlike mediation and conciliation, which only address a problem after it has occurred. A rent stabilization ordinance sets a clear, enforceable standard for rent increases in advance. This creates market-wide predictability for all renters. Rent stabilization sets a community-wide standard by establishing the consistent legal limit on rent increases. An ordinance directly tackles the systemic issue of housing affordability. It provides protections for all eligible tenants in a jurisdiction, not just those who can successfully navigate a mediation process. Rent stabilization empowers tenants collectively by providing a standardized community-wide protection. Rent stabilization lessens a single tenant's burden to fight for their rights. It shifts power toward the community as a whole, creating a clear legal basis for tenants to protect themselves. Rent stabilization prevents displacement, promotes neighborhood stability by allowing tenants to stay in their homes for longer periods. This is particularly beneficial for long-term residents and low-income households, which are most vulnerable to market rate rent increases. These are your constituents. These are your voters. Support them as they have voted, as they have supported you. Pass a rent stabilization ordinance. If you need more time, pass a moratorium on rents until you do pass the ordinance. Stand up for justice and the community. Your statement up here says this is what your whole entire idea here. Be the heroes.
Thank you. We can get the, one moment.
The clapping?
Yeah, we should not clap, no cheering, no clapping, because if there's someone who's on the other side of this item, then they feel like they're being stifled, and we want to have an open forum. But we do have online people that are waiting, and we want to get to them so we can get them going. So just one moment before you continue.
Tiff Lapp, if you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. I just want to say I really hope you guys figure something out that will allow these seniors to stay in their homes. Seniors are the fastest growing population on the streets right now, and it's a miserable place to be. Not a place where anybody belongs, much less seniors. And I think that you'll find that if you end up with a bunch of seniors on your streets, the cost of the city will be far greater to you than whatever it's going to cost to keep them in their homes. That's all.
Thank you.
Michelle Bushnell, if you have a comment, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. I don't. I just know the council has a hard decision, and I'm just listening. Thank you.
Shoshona Shea, if you have a comment, you have 3 minutes. Shoshona. Andrew Hamer, if you have a comment, you have 3 minutes.
Oh, hi. Yes, I came here just to say rent stabilization is the right decision. It's going to happen one way or the other. It has to. We can't keep pricing out the community from being able to live anywhere. We can't have places to live only with for people that have considerable means. There has to be a place where people can grow old and have a place to be. And one way or the other, the city is going to have rent control, for a rent stabilization, because as they said, there's going to be a ballot initiative, and it's going to get on the ballot, and that will cost whatever it costs. But it's just what needs to happen to be able to keep the community stable. And these other arrangements, as was commented before, one group can just get more money while making the other people's property less valuable. That's not fair. And there's no leverage that they're going to get any other way than rent stabilization. So I really do suggest that you pass it, and I hope you do, because it would save everyone a lot of headache and time and money. So thank you.
Those are all the Zoom participants.
Okay, well, thank you. And you're up.
Hi, I'm Hillary Mosier, the Regional Manager for the Golden State Manufactured Homeowners League. I co-wrote Humboldt County's Rent Stabilization Ordinance, which has functioned well for 10 years. You've been asked to enter into an MOU by Royal Crest's attorney instead of an RSO. Here is a list of communities in California with MOUs. There are 4. Here is a list of the communities with MOUs that switched to RSOs. There are 4. Here is the list of communities with RSOs in the state of California. There are 107. There's a reason for that. The Rancho Cordova MOU Rodriguez has submitted requires tons of staff time, allows for amendments at any time, and includes no inherent enforcement or penalties for violation. It was negotiated by Rodriguez, not park residents who can't afford their own attorney, which Rodriguez exploits to his client's advantage. The City of Fortuna has only 2 MOUs, one with staff, the other with police, with whom they have direct, mutually beneficial relationships based on trust. Rodriguez is asking you to enter into a one-sided MOU of his design. Here's Rodriguez's track record in trust with Fortuna so far. He said that nothing could be further from the truth than stores owning Royal Crest, because Royal Crest LP owns the park. Yet county tax records show that Royal Crest is not owned by Royal Crest LP. It is owned by an affiliate of stores. 2, Rodriguez says Royal Crest has a long-standing rent credit program. It does not. A program that can only cover 10 residents temporarily was offered last week. 3, Rodriguez threatens legal action multiple times. Each case he cites are cases that park owners lost. Stores and affiliates have never initiated legal action against municipalities in the state of California, and 10 of its 30 parks are governed by RSOs. 4, Rodriguez shows how much money was spent on maintaining his client's property, but a lie of omission fails to show how much income his client made during that period, alleging that any increase in park residents' income should go directly into his client's pockets. Would it be in the best interest of the citizens of Fortuna to enter into any agreement on behalf of a non-local, multi-billion-dollar partner who has actively developed a climate of distrust? As for the RSO from the city of Arcata, it contains more important problems, such as the city manager being responsible for all aspects, including adjudication petitions. Your city manager is already overworked and not trained as an unbiased adjudicator. The Humboldt County RSO relies on the California Office of Administrative Hearings, a state agency offering rates that are less than staff overtime. Arcata allows a 10% rent increase on the sale of a home and $100 a month rent increases for capital improvements, as well as legal expense awards paid by non-prevailing residents, rendering the petition process unattainable for low-income residents. We are urging you to enact a proven RSO adapted from your own county.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm sorry, I get very emotional. This is my home. I wanted to live and die in it, and it doesn't look like that could possibly happen for me. So I received this letter, and I dug into this letter for you so we can get into that, and it's about the Manufactured Housing Educational Trust. That's their temporary financial assistance program that they're talking about. So I'll start from the beginning. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I really appreciate everybody. My name is Deborah, and I live at Royal Crest Mobile Home Estates. I'd like to speak about why temporary rent assistance programs like those offered through the Mobile Home Housing Educational Trust are not real solutions for residents. First, the park's owner's attorney was lying regarding long-term rental assistance program available for mobile home owners. There has never been a long-term rental assistance program at Royal Crest. Residents have asked for applications repeatedly in the past and been told there's no such program. This demonstrates the park's owners' willingness to lie to get what they want. Like Manufactured Housing Educational Trust, these programs may sound helpful, but in reality, they are just a Band-Aid on a much deeper wound. First, they are temporary. They provide limited financial support for a short period, but the aid often runs out long before the next rent increase arrives. Meanwhile, park owners are still free to raise rents again, leaving residents right back where they started. Second, the coverage is both narrow and insufficient. The Manufactured Housing Educational Trust program is restricted up to 5% of park residents. Those with real property value under $25,000, the program could benefit no more than, I would say, 5 mobile homes in the whole park, owners in our park. That means they say 10, and they leave it at 190 families and seniors at the Royal Crest are left unprotected, struggling to shoulder unaffordable increases on their own. Third, these programs do not address the root causes. They don't stop escalating rents. Without a rent stabilization ordinance in place, owners can continue raising space rents to unaffordable levels. This is not sustainable, and it certainly isn't fair. Finally, these programs are unreliable. They depend on outside funding that can be cut or reduced at any time. On the other hand, a rent stabilization ordinance is a proactive, systematic solution. It provides long-term stability by placing reasonable limits on how much rents can increase each year. It ensures fairness, residents keep their homes and their equity, and park owners still receive a fair return on their investment. Without an RSO, residents are left chasing temporary aid that doesn't solve the problem and only delays the displacement of seniors and veterans. That is why tonight I urge the council to reject stopgap measures like this Manufactured Housing Educational Trust rent assistance programs
Thank
and
you.
instead adopted RSO.
The beeper, the timer went off.
Okay, I want to give this to you because at the end of this little letter that they gave us says, the assistant program is strictly voluntarily on the part of the park owners and may be changed, revised, discontinued at any time with or without any notice. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm back, and I'm Karen. Okay, excuse me. I support the RSO and a temporary moratorium on mobile home rent increases until the RSO issue is resolved. A majority of the speakers tonight, they're speaking for over 300 people, voting people, for the RSO and the temporary moratorium. It's not just us that you see here. We represent other people. The white balloons you see represent the ones that physically are not able to attend. The red balloon represents some seniors between 60 and 90 plus years old that without the RSO will die, probably freeze to death on the streets of the friendly city of Fortuna. The RSO is a lifeline for survival. It's a matter of life and death. Don't be intimidated by litigation. You're talking about our lives. The options on the agenda do not provide affordability housing. They do not benefit the city's affordable housing inventory or benefit the state requirements. I want to thank Sienna Emmons for coordinating the handicap seating, which, by the way, should have been done all along. We had people not attending and stop attending because they could not get their walkers down the aisles. That's an ADA compliance issue. And then I want to thank the City Council for speaking into your microphones. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Lana Craig. I live at Royal Crest Mobile Home Parks. And first, I want to thank everyone here who is paying attention and listening. I want to thank Amy Nilsson, the city manager, for doing all the work that you've done in research. And that is alongside Sienna Emmons, who I know has worked very hard typing, paperwork, research on all of these issues. One of the options to an RSO that's been presented is a memo of understanding. This is something the park owners and stores company would definitely prefer over a rent stabilization ordinance. An MOU is not legally binding, while an RSO would be. The MOU is a voluntary, non-binding agreement that is selective. An MOU does not protect park residents from rent increases. It is inconsistent with limited protections for residents. The RSO is legally binding and includes uniform protection for all park residents, limiting rent increases and unjust evictions. The RSO establishes a system of reporting and a right to petition. This MOU would be overseen by our city manager. It would use an unknown amount of her time and city resources to enforce it. The RSO helps preserve mobile home parks as a source of affordable housing and presents housing stability with fair rent increases as well as a fair profit return to the park owners. The MOU has no legal power, does not protect affordable housing, and MOU cannot stop unacceptable rent hikes or unjust evictions. There are 107 cities in California using RSOs compared to a few, 4, with MOUs. You might check cities where an MOU was tried and failed, such as cities of Marina, Modesto, and Thousand Oaks in California. Our great hope is that this board will enact a proper RSO similar to the one already presented you by Hillary Mosher. If you are not ready to vote on the RSO, please consider the temporary rent increase moratorium which we have requested. Save our seniors. Vote yes for us, so when the time comes, we can vote yes for you. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Andrew DeWitt. I'm here to speak in favor of the residents of Royal Crest in their search for a rent stabilization ordinance. I also support a emergency rent freeze for these folks while we're waiting for that RSO to take place. Also, while that's happening, if safe parking for people who become unhoused in this interim period as well. I'm urging you guys to take the most protective measures that people have showed you themselves, the evidence that I think is very overwhelmingly, convincing. And I feel that if we're worried about stores coming and suing the city, then I fear that stores also owns the city.
My name is Jane Lutz. My name is Jane Lutz. I'm a resident of Royal Crest Mobile Estates. My husband and I moved up here from Southern California in 2023. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear what I said before? Okay. So we moved one of the reasons we moved up here after deciding that a mobile home park would be the best financial choice for us was that in Southern California, where we lived before, the rent in a mobile home park is $1,500 per month. And so when we found a park in Fortuna that the rent was $733 a month, we were delighted. We had no idea that the rent increases would be so enormous every year. It was $45 the first year, $44 the second year. So according to the every $10 of increase results in a $1,000 decrease in the value of the home we live in, we have lost $8,900 of value if we try to sell our home since in the last 2 years. We love our home. We love the park. It's beautiful up there. The people are nice. It's just a lovely, lovely situation. And we have already seen people leave the park because they can no longer afford to live there. I don't want to be one of those people in the future. I truly do not. I really do not want to see anyone else have to leave Royal Crest because it's heartbreaking. It is totally, totally heartbreaking to watch those people move out. So please support the RSO. RSO and the moratorium on a rent increase until this is settled. Thank you so very much.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Laura McConnell. I have a sheet of paper here that I was going to read from.
Can you talk a little bit more into the mic, please?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to read from it, but I was sitting back there listening to you and listening to the fact that you're pretty much geared towards the memorandum of understanding. I'm a little sad about that. So I'm only going to read just pieces of it, pieces that kind of speak more to what I believe. It says here, we the mobile homeowners are not renters who can simply move. Our homes are here. Without enforceable protection, seniors in Fortuna are defenseless against the next increase. What we need is a law, something that cannot be ignored, bent, or revoked at the whim of ownership. This is not just about numbers, it's about dignity. We seniors are forced to choose between paying rent and paying for medicine when veterans and widows wonder if they're being priced out of their homes after decades in the communities. It shows that the current system is failing. Fortuna can do better. That is why I urge you to act boldly and adopt a rent stabilization organization. We don't need promises. We don't need mediation. We need protection. We need something with teeth. I am requesting that the council adopt the RSO like Humboldt counties, and if more time is required, please adopt a temporary rent increase moratorium. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members, and thank you for your service to the citizens of Fortuna. My name is Ricardo, and I live at Royal Crest Estates. I am here tonight not only on behalf of myself, but also my neighbors, many of whom are seniors, veterans, and families living on fixed and modest incomes. Tonight, we're asking for a temporary moratorium on rent increases at Royal Crest if you need more time to evaluate the 5 options before you, including an RSO. A short pause is a prudent, time-limited tool that protects seniors and families on fixed incomes from immediate harm while the city does the careful work of crafting long-term rules. Other communities have taken this exact step. In 2023, Sonoma County adopted an urgency ordinance temporarily freezing rent increases in mobile home parks in the unincorporated area while we are having a discussion about the best way to regulate these rents. That moratorium stayed in place until the board finalized updated regulations, creating orderly breathing room for staff analysis and public input. An RSO or any durable alternative you choose can take time. Although you may although you may be able to make a decision for an RSO like Humboldt counties tonight, a moratorium simply keeps conditions stable while the work continues. For Royal Crest's residents, stability during that work is not abstract. It's medicine, it's food, and it's heat. Without a moratorium, sudden increases become new rules or could force seniors to choose between basic needs or displacement. A narrowly tailored pause with a clear end date tied to your policy decision is balanced. It protects residents, preserves homeowners' earned equity, and gives management certainty that a transparent, fair return framework is coming. That balance is exactly why more than 100 California jurisdictions have adopted mobile home RSOs. If you need more time to decide, we are asking you to please adopt a temporary moratorium on rent increases at Royal Crest while you complete your evaluation and bring back the long-term policy choice. I am requesting the City Council to adopt an RSO like Humboldt counties. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stan Diaz. I'm going on 3 years now to Royal Crest, and I was starting to pay out. I was paying when I first came here $733, excluding utilities, and now it's gone up to $822 rent with utilities. I'm in the mid 900s, excluding, of course, using my heat. Then it goes up to well over 1,000, going on 2,000 in winter. And for those outside mobile home parks, they think it's great what we're paying, but they don't realize that we're on limited funds, that we're on fixed income, Social Security, and perhaps a pension or two for fortunate. So any substantial raise in rent or utilities can be catastrophic for all of us. I'm asking you members of the City Council to please pass the rent stabilization ordinance for our mobile home park. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Annie Leverton, and I am a homeowner and resident at Royal Crest. Thank you for hearing our request for an RSO and a temporary moratorium. There should be no contest. We are not asking for a mediation or an MOU. Indeed, those proposals were made by stores management, who is desperate to not have a cap put on the rent that they charge. Last year's increase was approximately 6.2%, an absurd amount. We are asking for a Humboldt County rent stabilization ordinance that will not just protect the residents of Royal Crest from exorbitant rents, but all of the current and future park residents in Fortuna. Again, no contest, a no-brainer. I cannot imagine that you would put the welfare of a corporation over the welfare of vulnerable seniors in Fortuna. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Lev Golod. I'm a concerned citizen from Arcata, California. I'm a member of the Humboldt Tenants Union. I came down here to support these seniors because I see the connection between what's happening in Fortuna and other communities who are struggling with unaffordable rents across Humboldt County and the rest of the state. While economic issues like land prices and rents are complex, it's clear that greedy, exploitative landlords like stores are part of the problem. That's just common sense. It's equally clear that the folks who live in Royal Crest deserve a fair shake. They've worked hard, many of them are still working, and they deserve a whole lot better than to be hit with arbitrary rent increases and facing the risk of displacement and even homelessness if they can't pay up. Fortuna needs to do right by these seniors, and I urge the council to adopt rent stabilization today. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kyle, and I'm here representing Humboldt Tenants Union. We collectively support rent stabilization for the tenants of Royal Crest. When I look at the crowd, I see my parents and elders like them who deserve a safe place to live out their years. So should you. As someone said before, protecting a multi-billion-dollar company is nowhere in the City Council's mission statement above you. The MOU lacks any teeth, and in this instance, doing the right thing requires having a spine. If any of you vote in support of the 4 options besides rent stabilization, my organization and I will fight shoulder to shoulder with the tenants to prevent eviction, and we will campaign against your re-election. You can expect litigation either way. Humboldt Tenants Union has passionate legal representation, and we are here ready and willing to do all that is necessary to ensure that tenants are protected and to allow them to keep their homes. We would like to speak with the residents of the Royal Crest to discuss ways to fight back.
Hi, my name is Liz Hernandez. Sorry, I didn't plan to speak tonight, but I'm a resident of Fortuna, California, and I have friends and I know folks who live at Royal Crest, so this is really personal to me. I also lived in San Francisco, California, where evictions are constant, and I was priced out myself. I'm back in Humboldt County, and it's really scary to see what's happened to rents. And I ask all of you, I wonder if you have kids, do you have family members, do you have elders who also are renters? This is something that is impactful for not just today, but for future generations who will be having to rent one day. And my hope is that we can get this rent stabilization ordinance so that we can have a conversation where folks are still here, not a conversation where half of the community that I grew up with is gone. My family came here from Mexico for a better life, and now, like, these things of having to deal with stable housing, again, like, it doesn't matter where you can go in California, it's a constant fear. So yeah, I just urge you to really consider the RSO. Excuse me. Thank you so much for listening.
Mayor, City Council members. My name is Don Dyer. I live at Royal Crest for almost 3 years now. And I'm about to turn 70, so I'm a youngster here. But we tried to use my VA benefits when my wife and I moved here, but the VA won't loan on a mobile home in a park. The rent is now larger than my mortgage. And by the way, there's veterans and disabled veterans in this park. I want to speak in support of rent stabilization. Many things you already know. Stores owner gets away with deferring maintenance, which leads to fires, hydrants that don't work, houses burning down because they had to move to another fire hydrant. It also leads to expensive water filter systems in our homes ruined, as well as water heaters due to water being shut off so often. Giant corporation stores has no integrity, just greed. They gross $2 million a year in our park. So any outlay that they give to you, they don't mention their income. I know affordable housing is a huge problem. I hope you vote for an RSO or a moratorium on rent increases until this is resolved. We are not asking for anything unfair. Rent is already exorbitant as if you compare to other parks in this county. COLA increases affect all of us. Every month, we have to worry about the utility meters being read correctly. Exorbitant rent increases, lack of real maintenance to water system and utility meters, dubious cliff erosion on Crest Drive. Stores, termite houses that they brought in, which I think they got for minimal cost or nothing. They brought them in with termites and rats. The RSO does not financially impact Fortuna, except as the manager noted. We need the RSO to be fair. Thank you for listening.
Hello, thank you for listening. I'm Catherine Lokers, and I'm here to stand with the senior citizens of Royal Crest. I'm asking you to pass an RSO on their behalf. I know many of them right now, it's even unaffordable as it is, and if they keep increasing the cost of rent, they're not going to be able to have a home to live in. And I'm asking you to please stand with them. Do not allow stores to put them on the street. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Lane, and I live at Royal Crest Mobile Estates. Tonight, I want to address one of the common claims we hear from park owners, that they need rent increases to cover improvements they've made to the park. Let's be clear, much of what is called improvements are not optional upgrades. They are basic maintenance required by law to keep their license to operate. Fixing infrastructure, repairing septic systems, updating electrical, maintaining fire hydrants, and replacing expired meters. These are not luxuries. They are the cost of doing business as a landlord. Homeowners in this park are already paying their own lot maintenance and home repairs. It should not fall on us to finance the park owner's responsibility to comply with regulations. Second, when these projects are done, the benefit does not flow to the residents. The value flows directly to the park owner. Every dollar spent on resurfacing roads, repairing utilities, or modernizing systems increases the long-term value of their property. Yet it is the homeowners, seniors on fixed incomes, veterans, and working families who are forced to foot the bill through higher rent. We are essentially paying to make someone else's investment more profitable. Third, we must not forget that these same owners purchased parks knowing full well that maintenance and compliance costs are part of ownership. In fact, many of these parks were already under rent stabilization ordinances elsewhere, and yet investors still bought them, which proves they can make a healthy profit while providing stable, affordable housing. This is why we need a rent stabilization ordinance. An RSO prevents park owners from passing along the cost of doing business to residents under the guise of improvements. It ensures fair returns for owners while protecting seniors and families from being priced out of their homes by charges that only serve to enrich landlords. Council members, Fortuna seniors deserve stability, not exploitation. That is why tonight I'm requesting the City Council to adopt an RSO, like Humboldt counties, and if more time is required, to adopt a temporary rent increase moratorium. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ron Deere. I've lived in Humboldt County my entire life. I'm probably a little older than I look. I'm 74 years old. I moved to Arcata, Sunnybrae, before they had grass, from Crescent City when I was 6 months old. But I still consider myself a longtime Humboldt County resident. I've lived all over the county. I've lived in Fortuna at least 3 different times in this 74-year-old trend. And I remember when I was a kid growing up, my mom working full-time, single mom, still on welfare, but working full-time. Eventually, she got to where she could have her own rentals and stuff. And back then, in the 60s and 50s, you never raised the rent until someone moved out because the lease for the rent, anybody remember that? Long-time residents? The lease was that was the lease. This is how much you were going to pay every month. So many of my friends and neighbors here at Royal Crest, they move in thinking that their rent is going to be about the same as it is. Maybe a little teeny bit of an increase. We hear, oh, it's up $60. Well, it's $60 a month. Multiply that times 12 for someone that's getting Social Security and maybe a pension. I know people that live at Royal Crest that have been there for like 30 years. When they moved in, it was a hell of a good deal. I mean, and I think, I don't really know the specific history of Royal Crest, but I think it was some really empathetic farmer and his wife that decides, you know what, I want to help out the residents, the seniors and veterans of this place, and we're just going to make this little mobile home place for seniors. It was great until they died, and they had some kids all over the country, the way I understand it, and they just didn't know what to do with it, so they sold it off to the mobile home corporations, stores management, who makes buco dinero, while poor seniors are stuck thinking that they're going to be there till their dying days. And I tell you what's happening is new retirees are moving into the park that think it's a good deal. They don't realize the major rent increases all the time. And then 10 years later, they're in the same boat as the other people who have been here 20 or 30 years. Now, the friendly city of Fortuna that I remember used to be the fog line stop between Ferndale, and I lived in a lot of my teenagers' years, Arcata High 69, in Arcata. Fortuna was sunny Fortuna, known as a friendly city. Then I moved down to a big, huge cattle ranch in southern Humboldt for 30 years, and we'd come up to Fortuna to go to the rodeo, actually auctioned off for a county there. Cattle from the Anzini Ranch, southern Humboldt, and lived there, and I became a school bus driver for southern Humboldt, retired there. So I have Social Security and my pension to go. So I've got at least maybe 5 good years before at age maybe 80 I have to find another job somewhere and work. I did have a professional driver's license. I could drive anything on asphalt. Last time I worked was for Eureka Trucking. I now have macular degeneration, poor eyesight. My nest egg has been going to my medical stuff, okay?
Okay. I
So,
appreciate your advocation.
There's politics, there's profit, and there's people. You make the choice. And I think you'll make the right choice. I think all of you will. Thank you.
If anybody has anything in a different light to say, there's your time. We've heard your message, and but we don't want to hear the same thing over and over. And I mean, it's not that we don't want to, but in the interest of time, we've heard it. And if anybody has anything different to say, other than that, we will close public comment on this item right now. Okay.
I have a couple questions after this. Can we possibly get Mr. Plotz to look at some case study information on RSOs and present on that in a future meeting? And then second question, if we were to do a temporary moratorium stop, how long would that take? Because it looks like there could be raising the rent again in January. So is that something that we still would have time to do before January?
So it's maybe to both of your questions. Yes, we can. It's possible we can get a moratorium somewhat quickly. I will need the help of the city attorney, obviously. And he doesn't have expertise in this area, and so we've been working with another attorney. The case study law, you know, I will just say from experience, attorneys don't love to be quoted in open session about what may or may not happen. So I'd have to have a conversation with him about how that might work.
Okay. Yeah, I would appreciate a little more information on just the legal kind of what has happened. If there's the numbers that they're saying, that I would like to see kind of, there's got to be some paperwork out there that would either support or deny those.
Yeah, there's definitely there's definitely a case law out there, 100%. Yes.
Thank you.
I have a hypothetical question on if you have a memorandum of understanding that caps rent increases at the 100% of CPI, or an ordinance that caps rent increases at 100% of CPI, what's the difference?
One is enforceable, the other one isn't.
MOU, so they do have different enforcement mechanisms. I would say one is voluntary. The MOU is voluntary. The ordinance is not voluntary. That's being put upon a mobile home park owner, and that's likely where the litigation will arise, because that's a forced situation, and MOU is a voluntary process that they're willing to participate in.
That's what I thought, but I didn't know about that for sure, so.
I actually had that question written down on the MOU, whether it was legally binding or not. So they can enter into an MOU, say they're going to do all of this stuff, and then when it comes down to it, not do it, and there's nothing anybody can do?
Well, there are things that we can do, and I wouldn't believe, they have entered into other MOUs. They've had expressed interest in entering into an MOU. They said in one of their communications, stores said that if the city were to pursue the MOU, they would limit the 2026 increase to CPI. So I believe that I can't predict the future, but I would think that they would stick with the MOU, because that is the practice that they've currently been doing with the jurisdictions that they're in MOUs with.
So if they did enter the MOU and they didn't follow that, then it could change and go to the voters and be voted or changed to the other?
So the MOU, what's in the Rancho Cordova MOU, is that if there's a voter initiative for rent stabilization, the MOU becomes a moot point. It's null and valid. It's null and invalid, excuse me.
I think that was most of my questions. We do need to do something, because rent is almost as much as it costs to rent an apartment. So I mean, this is hard. This is, I feel bad for the seniors going through this because when most of them moved into this, it was affordable housing. They put their life savings into their mobile home, and now they can't even afford to live in their mobile home. And so I can see the frustration. I would like to do the moratorium and get some more information from our attorney.
Another question on that. If it goes to a voter, but like general ballot thing, is the litigation still back on the city since it's a?
Yes, and that's currently the situation with the county of Humboldt.
So they're defending an ordinance they did not adopt.
That's correct. That was approved by the voters.
I think I agree with Mrs. Trent here that we start the temporary moratorium, but also I would like to see some information from some legal advice of case law on this.
I think, from my perspective, I think one of the public commenters, kind of suggested this was an issue between picking, between the, potentially helpless seniors and some greedy out-of-area corporation. I think from my perspective, I also kind of have to, choose what's best for the city of Fortuna as a whole. Obviously the seniors are in a really precarious situation, and I'm super sympathetic to that, but also just, sounds like it's going to take a lot of staff time and money to kind of enact something like this, which the city is critically short of, and we kind of also need to balance that with other city objectives like public safety, wellness, and youth opportunities, and just, everything else that goes into running a city to provide a good quality life for everyone. And I think if the management company is offering to come up with some sort of, understanding or agreement, I would be reluctant to take any action until we've at least given them the benefit of the doubt to make a good faith effort to come forward with some sort of proposal. And, whether that's acceptable to the seniors or not, or to the city, I guess remains to be seen as far as what the specific proposal is. But, obviously there's, a lot of unknowns, but until we see and, give them an opportunity to make a good faith effort to come up with something that may be a compromise for all involved, I would be personally reluctant to take any action until we've exhausted that option.
I'm very empathetic to what we've heard all night here. I think that they are in a situation that they did not expect to get into. And I would like to see us pursue the rent moratorium to give us more time to evaluate what's our best option. Because I would hate to put the city in a situation where we're open for litigation, and especially with the financial crisis that we're experiencing. So it's hard to make a decision because we have to look at the overall city as well. But we have to also try to help these citizens and get them in a better shape so that they're not taken advantage of. So it's a tough decision.
So a moratorium, would that be citywide mobile home parks or just?
Yeah, that would be citywide. The MOU that Stores talked about could just be between Stores and Royal Crest, but a moratorium would be citywide.
So it would affect people that aren't even involved in this?
It would impact the other mobile home parks in the city limits.
And there are means that can be taken in an MOU to urge compliance. It's not without. So. anyways, it sounds like we want to look at the moratorium right now.
I will make a motion to enact a moratorium to get that going.
Well, I think what you're doing is directing staff to return with a mobile home
Yes.
rent stabilization moratorium
Yes,
at the soonest possible convenience.
before the rent goes up.
I will,
Can it
I
be
will
done?
do my, I will do my darndest. I will do my darndest.
Okay, and then we have questions for the attorney. So we could give you the list of questions that we have.
You can individually give me a list of questions that I can then work on. Sure, yes.
Okay. Okay,
No Brown Act violations.
yes. So I make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
No. Motion passes.
Okay,
All right, where did I leave it?
future agenda items.
Do we have any future agenda items? I think we did our future agenda item.
Oral comments from the public.
Are there, that's after the city manager?
Yeah.
Oh,
we have-
city manager's report.
yes. Next is city manager's report.
Can I first excuse the staff at the
Yes.
staff table in the interest of time? Because I am trying to retain my department heads. So, and then I will happily deliver this city manager's report. Sienna cannot go. All the other department heads can go. Okay, let's get this started.
Before we move on to the next item, is it possible to have a second resolution requesting the city to mediate the MOU process in parallel to researching the moratorium?
That would
I mean,
probably have to come back later.
Well, could you call the room to order, Mayor? Because it's hard to have a
Excuse me?
conversation.
We're still trying to conduct business here. If you can step out in the front. We're not quite done yet. I want Orville to be able to hear.
Councilmember Stevens, in answer to your question, in the agenda, under future agenda items, you could make such a motion, and then that could come back. Assuming that motion passed, that your suggestion could come back.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I would move to include that as a future agenda item, just because I think, considering the mediation, for an MOU would still be an important consideration, as I had said, we want to exhaust all our options. And
So I just want to make sure I understand the motion that's on the table, and the motion on the table is to pursue a rent stabilization moratorium as well as work on an MOU with stores management, explore both options.
if that's possible.
And let me, as I'm thinking about this more, I do suspect that stores management may not be particularly open to that because we're talking about capping or prohibiting their rent increases, and so they may not likely be willing to have that conversation.
Okay. Well,
So,
I guess-
so feel free to make a motion for future agenda items and see if you get a second, and I will do whatever your council wants.
I'm just
I'm
trying
here
to
to
put
help.
this together because your motion was for,
Okay, that motion was made and seconded, and we moved on. So what we can redo is the future agenda items. He can add something around the MOU in future
yeah,
agenda
I guess,
items.
I guess
it's a
the
future-
moratorium is a temporary, thing, but doesn't address the RSO or the MOU. And so I just would like to, as, continue to make progress on the MOU, if the city's willing to mediate between them to see if it's possible in the long term.
Well, we
It-
wanted to get,
Some questions answered.
yeah, we wanted to get some questions answered on those items before.
Yeah, we're looking at the legality of RSOs, and then that might bring us back to the discussion of mediation. I think is that kind of where that's leaning. Like, is it a good option? Is it something we want to look to? And then at that point, I think it would bring it back to that conversation. I think that's what would happen. But
Okay, well then, I will postpone my request for future agenda item for another meeting.
Okay. City manager.
City manager's report. All right. I attended the RCRPD meeting at the beginning of the month where we received an update from the Eel River Valley Foundation on the state of the pool. They continue to wait for soil sample results and are researching above-ground pools, which are less costly than in-ground pools, and the McLean Foundation is interested in supporting the project, the actual building of the pool, for around $10 million. I met myself and the Fortuna Chamber CEO met with J-Ray. It's a marketing agency the County of Humboldt has contracted with to participate in a new countywide tourism marketing strategy. We've been invited to participate, and we will do so. Met with the police chief, the lieutenant, the finance director to talk about some of their significant financial concerns around their SBR that you saw this evening, as well as some of their recruitment and retention issues and their significant amounts of overtime. Met with Mark Andre to discuss other grant options to acquire the Vansel Crosswhite property. At some point, we need to find time to apply for technical assistance dollars to help continue with grant writing. Met with Plan West and our new senior planner, Katie Schmidt, to coordinate development review activities. I attended the Planning Commission meeting. I also met with our River Lodge manager, our Parks and Rec director, and our finance director to work on reducing the general fund's contribution to the River Lodge. More information will come to your city council, hopefully in October. So we'll be looking at a series of fee increases as well as some potential service changes. So that will come to you again. Met with HTA, HCOG, the Mayor Pro Tem, and the Parks and Recreation Director to discuss the fate of transit. Transit is nearing a fiscal cliff, and we will need to make some changes in the future in order to become eligible for other types of funding. All of our buses are on the edge of going to the dump, quite frankly, and we don't have the funds to replace them. So again, more information will be coming to your council at a later date, but we will work on that transit report and hopefully avoid the fiscal cliff and continue those transit services. And then obviously I spent some time working on mobile home rent stabilization, and that concludes the staff report.
Any questions for the city manager? No. All right. My computer went to sleep, so
it's me.
we did oral comments from the public and council reports.
you still have oral comments from the public on non-agenda items.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle.
Is there any oral comments from the public?
On non-agenda items.
Yeah, non-agenda items. I didn't think so, because I think I brought that up earlier. So, Councilmember Conley, council reports.
I was gonna have no report, but apparently the buses are like the Microsoft of the Klets. Other than that, no report.
And now, Councilmember Diaz.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Stevens.
Nothing at this time.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent.
Well, thank you, City Manager, for making part of my report about the transit, so I don't have to do that. And I just was kind of looking through Facebook and saw that the River Lodge is now opening up some of the mornings for commercial kitchen use rentals. So I was really happy to see that they're actively working on some income for the River Lodge. So just wanted to report that I'm glad that's going on. And that's all I will report for now.
Well, I'm excited to hear that too, because I have taken cooking classes at the River Lodge. It's been a long time ago now, but it was a good kitchen to work in, easy to clean, set up well, well-staffed well-furnished with equipment. Other than that, I would just say that I had a historical commission meeting, and they was well-received. The reception we had there for the Cal Cities meeting, and they enjoyed that. Had a meeting with Caltrans, which I touched on earlier, and in the interest of time, I'm going to cut it right there. Have a HCOG meeting on Thursday.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.